from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine,
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Legends Look Back, proudly part of the Utini Podcast Network. This is a Star Wars books podcast for people who watch the Olympics skateboarding and say, I can do that on Tony Hawk, where we celebrate our Star Wars EU and expand the universe one episode at a time. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and in this very special bonus episode, the Yuuzhan Vong invasion has breached the Outer Rim and made its way to the comics. For this Legends Comics coverage, I am joined by none other than the Cosmic Forces, Caleb Laminack. How are you, Caleb?
I'm doing great, a long-time listener, first-time guest. It's great to be on board as we talk about kind of a comic preview that, not to peek too much behind the screen here, but when Jared asked me, hey, have you read this? I'm like, no, but you gave me enough lead time that I can read this. So, hammer through this, and I guess it took me, peeking through it about 2 or so weeks to kind of, absorb and get through here.
Yeah, whereas meanwhile, I asked you, 3 weeks ago to do this episode, and then you texted me yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, and said, all right, I'm all finished, ready for the episode. And I said, oh, great, I should probably start. So I read the entirety of the series in a little over 24 hours, and you know what? It was a great way to take it in. Though not necessarily the recommended way to take it in.
Was this your first time reading it?
Yes, it was. Yes,
really?
It was. I
Okay.
wanted to for a long time. And that is, listeners, we are talking about the Dark Horse Comics Star Wars Invasion. This is a coverage of 17 issues from the Star Wars Invasion Dark Horse Comics. They are collected in 3 parts. So there's, and I love this as a preacher, it's just 3 alliterated points. You got to love it. Refugees, which is 5 issues published in 2009. Rescues, which is 6 issues from 2010, and then Revelations, 5 issues from 2011. Not to be confused, Caleb.
I was about to say, it's Revelations, not Revelation.
I knew we were going to have to race each other for that joke. I just knew it. Yeah, that's like low-key my biggest pet peeve, is when people call the biblical book Revelations. You want to really just grind my gears. That's all it takes is one little S. But here's the crazy thing, man, is there's also an episode 0, right, an issue 0 prelude.
Yes.
Did you check this one out as well?
I did read that one. It was where the listing I saw had it listed as episode 0, so I read that one first.
Yeah, okay. See, I thought maybe I would have you stumped on that, but of course not. You are, of course, a seasoned comics pro. This is not your first episode, issue 0
No.
in the comics world, is it?
Absolutely not.
But I will ask...
KOTOR and Boba Fett as well.
Okay, let me ask, Caleb, have you had any other exposure to the New Jedi Order beyond the Invasion comics?
This is the first bit of official one I've read. I've been around the fandom for a while, and I remember first hearing about them in Yuuzhan Vong and the role-playing games, source books, and things like that. So I've been familiar with them, but
yeah, they're inescapable.
I'm trying to think I think I kind of dropped off the Legends content of the normal canon after the Kip Duron and not a Darksaber.
There's a book called Darksaber.
That was it.
It's got Hutts. It's very wacky.
And it was the Sun Crusher super weapon.
So that's the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Yes. I think I read that one, and that's Legends. That's about as far as I got, because those were the only ones that my brother had, so...
There you go. So I'm actually eager to hear your perspective on this then, because as somebody who's not read the New Jedi Order, the 19-book novel series, for this to be your exposure to the Yuuzhan Vong, I can't wait to hear that perspective. So in this regard, slacking on your Legends knowledge is actually a pro for you, Caleb. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad I'll be able to provide a kind of a new perspective here.
That's right. Now, as a comics fan doing the Cosmic Force, of course, I do wonder, have you had any exposure to the writer of this series, which is Tom Taylor? Tom Taylor is the writer of the acclaimed, I mean, at least we love it on Legends Look Back, the Blood Ties comics. And then in canon, he also wrote the Age of Resistance comics. You ever read any other Tom Taylor,
I
Caleb?
do the Age of Resistance. I'm just trying to remember, because that was an anthology. Like, did he do all of the Age of Resistance? Or
I believe so. Yeah, the Phasma, and there's Hux.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Other ones.
Yeah. Rose, Snoke. Okay, yeah, I did do all this. I'll have to reread those, because when we started Cosmic Force back in 2020, I kind of power read through a lot of these ones, and like many things, when you cram for a test, it's all gone out. So I do remember I did like Blood Ties a lot. That was kind of a fun, Jango Fett story, because we don't get a lot of Jango stories, actually.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go on the record and say I think that Tom Taylor's a great writer, and so I thought this is a really well written series. We'll wait on our full review in just another minute or two. But now, on the other hand, there's the art. I don't know that I evaluate the art nearly as highly as the writing in this particular series, though some things were better than others. The art on this is by Colin Wilson. He has also done art on some of the Rebellion and Legacy comics and Legends, as well as some covers for Knights of the Old Republic. What's your take on the art here, Caleb?
I liked it. It may not be like the most like technically like amazing, but like this was like in the late era of Dark Horse, where they still had really good art. I feel like there was very rarely a moment where I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Like the art flowed very well, the panel layouts were good, maybe nothing like crazy interesting, but it was very workout, very serviceable, very good. Like this is going to sound like a damnation by fake praise, but thank God they got the same artist for all the 17 issues. Because
same artist and same writer. I mean, there's some real consistency, uniformity.
Like I'm going back through and kept rereading Knights of the Old Republic by John Jackson Miller, which is a great series. Yeah. But like every third issue, they changed the artist, and like even if you have two really great artists, and most of the artists they've had there are really good, like just when you change, everyone changes the character models just slightly, and it can be a little jarring. So no, the art was really good here. I enjoyed all of the like the presentation and the writing and everything of these three series. Like we can get a little bit more into it when we do the recap, but it definitely felt like it was one thing. Like Refugees, Rescues, and Revelations, like there's not really, they bleed right into each other.
It's got a Last Jedi, Force Awakens into Last Jedi thing where there's no breaks, there's no gaps from one story to the next.
No.
The other one picks up like literally in the same frame where the last one left off, and so those do seem a little bit arbitrary. That's for sure. Now, I thought with the art then we can move on, that the space battles were great, action scenes were great for me, and there were more panels where I was like, oh, that's really good. Then there were ones where I thought to myself, oh no. However, I would say the biggest complaint for me were the faces, some of the likenesses, in particular Luke. Luke looked right after Mark Hamill had been in that wreck back in 1980. Unfortunately,
it felt like a lot of like the art was best when it wasn't focusing on the canon characters, like Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. Like I felt like they were like he was trying to make them not look photorealistic and not look just like them, which in some cases can be really good, because like the opposite end of the spectrum is our favorite, I wouldn't say whipping horse, but someone that we often bring up.
Don't you say that name on this podcast. Don't you say it.
All right, I won't say that name. If you want that in joke, you have to listen to my podcast here, just practically in air time when we talk about modern
a canon Star Wars artist, for better or for worse. Sure. Yeah. No, I did like his Han Solo, so we'll say that much. A redeeming trait there. But overall really fit the uniformity, I thought, with late Dark Horse era. Definitely fits right alongside those other series. You've got your Legacy, which is, exceptional, but then Knights of the Old Republic, Dark Times, so forth and so on. For those timeline junkies out there, I know that you're out there. Shout out to Trev. Based on what I've found on the Wook, Refugees and Rescues take place in between the novels Vector Prime and Onslaught, whereas Revelations takes place between Onslaught and Ruin. So this is taking place early on in the New Jedi Order timeline.
Are those like the first 3 books of the series?
That's correct. Yeah.
Jeez,
So-
there's 13?
19. Not counting short stories, which we're doing next. The next episode of Legends Look Back. I got to start reading those too. Anyway, hey, I will say, Caleb, this is a fun little bit of behind the scenes here. This is some Legends Look Back exclusive content-ish, because we've had it published for a year now. I got to do a one-on-one interview with the former editor-in-chief of Dark Horse, Dark Horse's Star Wars comics, and that is Randy Stradley last year. Got to talk to Randy Stradley, and he talked about how he had a hand in the formation of the New Jedi Order. You ever heard this before?
I've not.
Yeah, so Randy Stradley, absolute on the Mount Everest of Star Wars comics. The architect of the Dark Horse era. He had this idea for an extragalactic invasion. And so he has this meeting with higher-ups at Lucasfilm, some of the other publishing folks. He pitches this idea. His version of the story, as I'm now recalling it off the top of my head, so there's several layers of error, potential error here. They kind of took his idea, ran with it, but took it in a direction he didn't necessarily like. So the New Jedi Order with the Yuuzhan Vong invasion it was his brainchild until they kind of ran with it a different direction. So I asked him about this. Well, you finally got to do the series, you got to do your extragalactic invasion with Invasion, and he kind of just gave me one of these. Oh, yeah. So, you heard it here first, folks. The stamp of approval from Mr. Stradley himself on Invasion, which is...
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, as a producer, I wouldn't say this is a black mark, but it, like, spoiler warning for a 10-year-old sort of thing, it doesn't really end in a very satisfying way.
Well, it's not a spoiler warning because there is no spoiler. You can't actually... It doesn't have a satisfying conclusion. This is still a mystery to me. I don't totally know why, because the last series takes place in 2011. Perhaps they were going to have plans for a 2012 series, and that's when D-Day happened, Disney Day.
Rumors were out where sales just down. Like, this was like,
I don't know.
I could see this being a hard one to think, because to make a comparison to the comics, to the canon series, like, we're in the middle of the High Republic Phase 3, and like, they're publishing the comics about, the High Republic at the same time they're publishing the books.
Right.
Like, these comics were put out 10 years after the books came out.
Right. So these did come later. So it was not synonymous. I actually would have thought simultaneous. I actually really would have enjoyed these tying in more to the overall events of the books. But overall, I thought these were great and really enjoyable. I had very low expectations going in, and issue 0, issue 1, those were already blown out of the water. But before we spoil it anymore, we'll give a spoiler warning here. If you want to pick up and read alongside with us before you continue in the episode, we're talking about Star Wars Invasion. These are available currently on Marvel Unlimited. You can get the issues for about $1.99 a piece on Kindle, formerly known as Comixology. Rest in peace, Comixology. Comixology was a real one. But this is really good news, Caleb. They're going to be collected for the first time in a long time in one singular epic collection. The New Republic Volume 8 Marvel Epic Collection is forthcoming, slated for release on October 29th, 2024. Caleb, are you going to be picking this one up?
Maybe. Like, it's right after my birthday, which I know is right after your birthday as well. So there's a couple other, like, ones I want to get. It's like, I didn't have 6, 7, or 8, or any of the other earlier. I think I have, like, New Republic 1 and 2 somewhere back there behind me. So I have some middle ground to get.
Yeah, so that's, of course, now that you've read them all, you're not as incentivized either. I will say this much, I'll definitely be picking them up, and so I'm excited to get my hands on this when the time comes, as can all of our listeners, if that's your preferred way to read them, pick it up, and then join us again. But, Caleb, without further ado, let's get into it. Star Wars Invasion, plot summary. What happens? Basically, the Yuuzhan Vong invade, and this story centers around the planet Artorias. Artorias, a peaceful planet, home of the noble family, the Galifianacuses. No.
Something like that.
The Galfridian
Galphanos?
family. Galfridians. So the Galfridian family consists of Finn, who is our protagonist, the young prince, King Khaled, Caled, so not quite Caleb.
Not
though.
quite. I do have a different canon Star Wars the character named after me, so I'll take that. But they have the prince and the king, and then they have the real protagonist, Kay.
Oh, you like the
going
edgy
and throwing this
princess?
out here, the princess here, and then their mother, Nina. They have kind of a fun, like, episode 0 really had like a fun, great family dynamic there. I wasn't until the end of episode 1 that I was like, oh wait, this is the kingdom? Like, this is the king and queen? Like, they kind of buried
Right.
the lead there, right?
They did, yes, definitely.
Good. So I just want to make sure, because I went back and reread, and I was like, I don't think they established that earlier. So they kind of, buried the lead, pulled the rug out under us. So,
Right.
Finn is force sensitive. Like, the prince is force sensitive. He has this cool goggles thing, and, seems like a young rapscallion. But then...
Yeah, it looks like a Digimon protagonist,
I
let's be
mean,
honest. With the
yeah.
goggles on the head. It's like,
Definitely.
Digimon.
Like,
Yeah, loved him.
Going to have some digital monsters here. But anyway, he's trained to be a Jedi after the Yuzong attack, because the Yuzong attack, very much like a protagonist from any like JRPG or any like great story. Like, his home gets overrun, the family gets split apart. Khaled, the king, leads a rebellion from a secret base there, which is pretty cool, Gungan style here. Meanwhile, his wife and daughter hijack
That's right, very Gungan style.
a Yuzong prison ship and have some great escapades and great like power dynamics there.
Yeah.
The queen plugs herself into the bio ship there in a really metal scene there. It's pretty.
Its tendrils go up her nostrils and penetrate her forehead. It's very graphic. There's some bloody stuff in this series. Some decapitations, hands getting cut off. It's pretty hardcore.
It's pretty rough. Like, yeah. We got some. Finn interacts with like the who's who of the New Jedi Order with Jason and Jaina Solo. And, like, the rest, tries to help with their family drama there.
Yeah, there's some good Luke and Mara stuff in here, though I thought Luke came across more favorably than Mara.
She had, like, all of 3, like, panels, it felt like.
Yeah, right. In the first one, I was like, oh, wait, double take. That's supposed to be Mara? She was very flowy. We'll just say that much. But Luke came across great in the series, good mentor. Although I will say Finn goes full Corran Horn here. Okay, he's separated from his family. They could be being tortured, and then he goes off to train at the Jedi Academy. I mean, that's straight out of iJedi. It's exactly what Corran Horn does.
Like, do they have like an advanced learner's permit? Like, we'll cram all your normal learning into 2 weeks during like special rate fairs or something. I don't know.
Right, like an accelerated class. They actually talk about that in the series, that Luke says, I won't rush his training because, remember what happened to my father. So it doesn't want to, though, in hindsight, was Anakin's training rushed? I guess they accepted him at what? The wizened age of 9, which was a real problem.
I was about to say, most 9-year-olds I know I wouldn't trust with a laser sword.
Yeah. So he goes off to train at the Jedi Academy. That's not where it ends. There's so many more plot twists and turns. Finn eventually, after having helped rescue some Jedi refugees, he shows mercy to a Yuuzhan Vong. He has the chance to end the life of the Vong warrior Tseilak in combat, and he shows him mercy, something that seems to really drive Tseilak nuts after that. And then he kind of gets hyper-fixated on Finn, and seemingly there's going to be more with that story arc that's just ultimately unresolved. So that's fine.
It's not fine.
Ultimately, it's kind of sad. But at the end of the day, he then is rescued by a deranged Jedi that looks just like Troy Polamalu with a broken nose. Shout out to Steelers Nation out there. His name is Dre. Dre, then, another plot twist, the end of the series, has a red lightsaber. It's kind of a dark side.
Bad guy.
It's like there's a lot of plot
character,
twists.
Like, his character, I felt like needed some more time in the pressure cooker here. I don't know. If Finn's not done yet with his story arc as he goes back to his home just in time to see his father get killed from a Vong sleeper agent, who was placed among the royal family years and years ago.
Right.
It turns out, though, the Vong have had a long history with their family, as his mom, turns out, is actually a stepmom. Like, his birth mom died when he was young, and his dad remarried another Vong sleeper agent. So his mom, Nina,
Yes, but a good one.
can be like, is shapeshift here. And
Yeah,
Finn
she peels her face off.
Yeah, it's her face was just off.
No, that's a thing Vong can do. They wear these. They're called Uglith maskers. Caleb, welcome to new. For you,
It's somewhere in one of my. It's somewhere in one of my RPG splat books here. I know.
That's right. I've got that one too. There's a lot of new
Cage, not Cage. The John Travolta and the Face Off.
Right.
Yes.
Pulp Fiction.
Well, yeah, exactly that one. The other
Yes.
90s movie. Anyway, because of like the weirdness here, Finn has the superpower and can sense the Vong in the Force, which you're not supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, that's a seed that's planted, and I'm pretty sure that ties back into the main New Jedi Order books as well. I can't exactly remember what that's called, but yeah, he's got a creepy Yuuzhan Vong thing happening inside him. It like tries to burst out of his chest a bunch, and it allows him to sense the Vong, whereas no other Jedi can do it. So it's kind of cool, also kind of scary. It makes him very unique as a protagonist. Wrapping it all up, the final story arc is they have to rescue some Artorian refugees who are under the thumb of some Imperials. These Imperials, then we learn another plot twist. If you're keeping track at home, this is the 5,000th plot twist in the 17 issues. They're under the control secretly of the Yuuzhan Vong. So these some of the Imperial higher ups who are holding the Artorian refugees. They're also answering to the Yuuzhan Vong. Very, very complicated. And then it's the women that free them. So you've got the queen and the princess,
the real protagonists. Meanwhile, Finn infiltrates Coruscant to Boris Phalia's office and doesn't assassinate the leader of the Republic, but does, that's when he realizes that his semi-bastard Dre is evil, and it's like, I want to stop the Vong because I want to take over the galaxy once they're done. Very like, okay, Mr. Hobo here, I'm sure you're very dangerous. But it ends on a cliffhanger as the Vong shapers finish off a Jedi that they've been have captured and been tortured like this entire 17-issue run, as they create a super weapon that will eradicate the Jedi.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There is. It does flow as a story, though.
Yes.
Our summary doesn't flow as well, but the story flows a lot better. Tom Taylor, great writer. I will say the thing that I like about that third story arc is Boris Phalia is, he's a legacy character in Legends. He's in tons and tons of books. He's one of those characters you love to hate. And in this, he goes to thwart an assassination attempt. Finn goes to thwart the assassination of Boris Phalia, the Chancellor of the New Republic. But while in the process of thwarting the assassination, he overhears Phalia talking about how he's really like a Yuuzhan Vong truther, and he doesn't believe that they're real or that it's a real problem, a real threat. And Finn gets so annoyed that he almost kills Boris Phalia.
Yeah, like, I remember Phalia from
very relatable.
I recently reread like the Thrawn trilogy, and I remember Phalia being like he was a jerk in that, but like there's a point where like, okay, like everything he says make us a certain like Charles de Gaulle sort of sense, like, like I don't agree with what you're saying, but from a certain perspective, I guess that could be true. I just feel like he can't like as the series goes on, he's can't more and more flanderize into like he's just like everything that's wrong with any form of like government at this point.
Well, I will say there is more nuance to the character, and when he does go, he goes out with a bang. That's all I'll say about that. Don't want to spoil it for our listeners.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Not for it.
We'll leave it at that.
Through it.
But in this, finally the bodyguard, Borsk Feli is like chief of security, comes up and
does she
and
even
says,
get a name? It seems like she's going to be a major. She'd be a major player in the next chapter.
Yeah, she was really likable. The Twi'lek chief of security. She then stops Finn from seemingly killing Borsk Feli, and she's like, "What are you doing? If you're here to stop the assassination, why did you come to assassinate him?" He's like, "Listen, I wasn't really going to kill him, but you have to admit your boss is super annoying." So I just loved that line. That was great.
Yeah, it's a fun dynamic here. Like Finn is to kind of like talk about him a little bit. I do like his characterization. I like how early on it shows like, there's a scene where he has the not the Shaper but the warrior, the Yuzumong warrior at his mercy, and he gives mercy. Like I totally was expecting him to kill him, like just this random Vong essentially under a thing just after his planet was killed and after his semi-mastered Palin was murdered by the Yuzumong as well. But he showed mercy. I'm like, okay, we're setting this character up to be a really good and fun character. Like I like this like characterization. I like how he's young and impetuous, but not. He's dumb and like runs into danger, but not as. It's very Luke-like, but it's not. I'm not getting major Luke vibes, if that makes sense. I feel like he's still a different character.
A little bit more confident and headstrong, but he's also trying to figure out his own identity, the mystery surrounding why he feels the way that he does. I will say the showing mercy portion. We're recording this hot off the heels of the release of Deadpool and Wolverine. My wife and I bought tickets. We're gonna go see it. Love the X-Men. Love Wolverine. I'm meh on Deadpool. He's a little bit overly raunchy for me. But my wife, we want to go see the movie. Love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Got to go see this. She says, "Well, I've never seen a Deadpool, so we need to watch the first one, so I just know who he is and what he's about." I warn her. I'm like, "This is very gory,
there's a like I think they literally like make that joke within like the first 5 minutes of I can't like your girlfriend / wife is going to turn to you like, did that guy just drop an F-bomb and shish kebab a dude?"
Right. Yeah. So, but at the end of that, the spoilers for the first Deadpool movie from 10 years ago, however long ago that was. At the end, Colossus gives this amazing heroic speech to Deadpool about like he's got the man who had caused all this trauma for him. Mm-hmm. He's got him at gunpoint, ready to end him. And Colossus says, "You're a hero. Be a hero. It's moments like these that define you, that make you a hero." Waxes poetic. It's a beautiful speech. Trying to convince him to show mercy. Deadpool shoots the guy, kills him. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Okay, next time I'll look for those moments to be a hero." I was expecting that here. I was expecting Finn to be on the precipice, and then kill his captor. But and then, he's flirting with the dark side the rest of the series, but that's not what happened. He did, in fact, show mercy. And so it undercut my expectations. I blame Deadpool.
Exactly. Well, we can blame Deadpool for a lot of things. Like, yeah. I don't know where his, rest of Finn's story is going, but, I feel like, I do like Finn. And I was kind of joking the entire, thing that, he's not the real protagonist. Kay's the real protagonist, his sister. I do think Finn is definitely the protagonist of the series, but Kay has a lot of screen time, and her refugee uprising and slave rebellion, and then taking her ship to attack Shaper Worlds. I really liked Kay a lot here.
Yeah, in some ways she is the more interesting of the two characters. Kay, is it implied that they're twins?
It's not. I think they said that their ages are separate there.
Okay, they're both babies when they're being cared for by the Queen. Yeah, there's a flashback there. It seems to me that they're setting Finn up to go more of the Jedi route, but that they were grooming Cade to be the new monarch of the people. So she's got this strong, headstrong leadership quality. She's willing to take charge. She bosses the soldiers around. At one point, one of the soldiers tries to convince her to give the speech before the people, and she says, "No, I need you to command the people because you're taller and they can see you."
Exactly.
And she's like, "Thanks for the speech."
They're not twins there. She is 1 year younger.
Okay. I was wondering, Star Wars does love its twins, Caleb.
Like, especially because it seems like at the end she's like force sensitive because she senses the passing of her father.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
did
and they
you
do
like?
set up a mystery. They do say there's more to her identity than you know, and then we never find out what it is. Do we?
I don't think so. Like, I like, yeah, like she's I feel like she like, I like her a little bit more maybe because what she's doing is a lot more large scale. Like Finn, like the entire middle part is like, oh boy, we're going to hunt down a smuggler who has a holocron that might be important. Meanwhile, she's like, I'm going to rescue all these slaves now.
Right. And she stands up to the Yuuzhan Vong. She stages an uprising upon the Yuuzhan Vong prisoner ship, and she's a great character. Really loved her. I would like to see them go kind of the Game of Thrones route and set up Finn to be the protagonist, and then if they had at the end of the first volume killed him off and made her the protagonist, I think that could have been cool. But they did, and
they did.
all we have now is our head legends, where we have to finish the story.
Naomi Sunstrider of you.
Yeah,
a little bit of a bait and switch there.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of thought we might go that direction, but we didn't. So,
but
who
yeah,
knows?
like I'm glad they split them up. Like I would have liked to see them come back together because they're like, I feel like Finn is still kind of the same character he was when he left, after the invasion. But Kay is now a very different person.
Yeah, she's been on a trajectory. She's no longer the sheltered princess. She's staging uprisings and bossing around armies. But there's also some kind of secret with her identity that she does at one point. Did she get shot or did she get stabbed?
She like gets
And
shot by a stormtrooper and like it doesn't face her, and then she rips a dude's head off
with her bare hands. Rips
bare hands.
Rips not just the helmet off the stormtrooper, but the helmet, head and all, Ewok style, off the stormtrooper's shoulders. It's really gory and graphic. I honestly was like, whoa, am I still watching Deadpool? What's happening here?
Like it definitely felt a little bit out of left field here, even though we just saw her mother, who we'd now been established wasn't her birth mother, turn into her Vong form and just kill off like an entire like party's worth of corrupt Imperials. So,
right, yeah, I'm not totally certain where they were going. I'm gonna have to scour around the deeper nooks and crannies of Reddit, that hive of scum and villainy, this weekend to try to find what other people's fan theories are and see if there's any Randy Stradley interviews or anything out there.
Or just or maybe get the get Tom Taylor on and interview him and just ask him directly.
That's not a bad idea. We'll see if we know a guy. Who else hasn't really gotten their moment in this sun? We've talked about the Queen. We've talked about
we didn't talk about the Queen and King too much, but let's the King. I feel like King Khaled, he was awesome. I really liked him a lot.
I think for my money, he's the greatest character in the series.
I can't disagree with that. Not at all. Like, even though he died halfway through the series, like that. I kind of like how they took their time with it. Like, he's a jokey character, but you can definitely feel like he's the sort of person you would trust as a king. Like, Star Wars has interesting views when it comes to monarchs, and that, it's almost
right.
Like, Arthurian legends that if you're a king or a queen, you're doing something right. There's something good about you. And he definitely seems like a great leader, a great personality. Like, I love, even though it might seem a little cliche, like, he spent like literally an issue and a half on his deathbed dying. But like,
yeah, Yoda style.
It was a great issue, like him talking with his son, explaining his backstory, cutting up with his child there. It was good. Right. It was like probably the best writing and best part of this series here.
I will say, Caleb, as a Star Wars RPG game master, you still do that? You the game
we
lord?
Just have wrapped up, so season 4 should be coming out to your scenes now.
Yeah, I got to get caught up on all that and rejoin one. And I did one off with you and just loved it, and have never done it since. But I will say, as a what do you call yourself? A game lord,
game master,
game master.
Yeah, game master is a term for it.
Dungeon boss. As the person who helps people craft their characters, this is a role that you take. King Khaled is such a perfectly crafted Star Wars character. Okay, his background is kind of like D&D. He jumps in and you find out Luke has a little bit of camaraderie with him, because they were buddies because Khaled fought in the Battle of Hoth.
Yeah.
So he's a rebellion war veteran. And not only that, he's, kind of buddy-buddy with Luke Skywalker. You can buy that just looking at him with his big beard, but he's a family man, so he's a good dad. You also find out, he's kind of got like this little bit of a raunchy, romantic love story. You get a flashback to that and how he falls in love with the alien stepmom, which is it's kind of a hot scene,
Yeah.
But on top of all that,
He's also like, hey, like, you know what I don't like on my planet? Slavery. Like, that's off.
Right.
That's automatically plus like 10 points in my character book.
right, they were taking in refugees after the Galactic Civil War, and so then the Duros, there was a Duros who had a slave, and he frees the slave and then marries the slave. Anyway, so it's a great little story. On top of all that, he's earned the respect of the Yuuzhan Vong, and this did a lot for me as the reader to realize after having spent, I've read the entire New Jedi Order series a time and a half now. It's not easy for a warrior to earn the respect of the Yuuzhan Vong. Only a handful ever do among the Jedi, and this is one who does. And so he's not even a Jedi. The king, the rebellion war veteran, earns the respect of the Vong. And so that to me, love the character, Khaled. It's that close, Caleb, just this close to sharing his namesake.
Exactly, we just need to go back and retcon that D to B there. So, no, yeah, he definitely has, like, a strong character. Like, this is going to sound petty, but, like, I'm kind of glad. Like, they took him out at the right time. Like, his death.
He had to die. Need to be meaningful.
His son's, like, story a lot. Like, will set his son's story up a lot more, even though like, after he dies, his son just goes and lives with a garbage Jedi on Nar Shaddaa for a little bit and learns how to commit political assassination.
No, yeah, as one does after your dad dies. Your monarch dad. That his death though was brutal because just as Finn and his crew is arriving on Artorias with the information from the holocron, it sounds like I'm making stuff up out of a D&D campaign. It really does. As soon as they arrive on the planet Artorias with the information, that's when the Yuuzhan Vong spy reveals himself and attempts to assassinate King Khaled. So Finn and his droid Prowler, they're running down into the catacombs to find the king, and meanwhile he's engaged in a duel against the Yuuzhan Vong. Finn comes in, saves the day, only for the Yuuzhan Vong then to use his amphistaff to spit its venom in the face of King Khaled. It was a gut punch, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was like it like getting to that point. You're like, okay, like we're setting up the timing so it can go either way. And then he stopped like the assassination. I'm like, oh good, like the king survives, and then he gets the venom spit all over his face. Like oh never mind.
Yeah,
like,
you thought he was in the clear, right? Yeah, you thought it was predictable, and then they surprise you. There were so many plot twists. Which of the plot twists for you was your favorite, the most surprising? How about the Queen? I did not see that one coming. She was secretly a Vong.
I did not see that one either. Like, I feel like that one, like, now that I'm looking back in retrospect, it makes a lot more sense of, like, how she, like, immediately, like, interfaced with the Vong.
She could understand their language.
Over and all like that. So that was kind of cool. I kind of like, I know I already talked about this, but I kind of like that first twist of like, oh, by the way, this new royal family that we've been following all of episode 1 here. That was kind of a fun little hole here. Like those are the major ones here. Like, I don't know, like Dre being a bad guy, I kind of felt like I saw coming, and it still doesn't make any sense.
I was too fixated on the fact that he looked like Troy Polamalu.
He definitely looks like he got his face caved in a couple times by a linebacker. Yeah.
yeah. It was a great character, making a lot of quips, almost reminiscent of what they just did recently with the Acolyte. So spoilers for the Acolyte, if you haven't watched it. 5, 4, 3. The Sith Lord was the quirky little twerp who was making these little quips all throughout the series.
Exactly.
So similar in that regard, though they never reveal that he's a Sith Lord. He uses Force lightning. Dre does, but
I feel like he's just like a fallen Jedi, like someone who like is now, I don't like it. He seems like, I don't know, like he doesn't seem like a big threat in my mind. Like just see he has two lackeys. His two like major lieutenants are spice running lackeys who like run in to run on low levels of Nar Shaddaa. Like it's not that scary.
Right. No, they look like McDonald's characters.
Absolutely.
From the McDonald's expanded universe. Yeah, I'm interested to see where they were going with that. I don't know exactly where, but it was interesting. Well, anyway, lots of plot twists. I enjoyed the plotting of this series a lot. Caleb, we've talked a lot about the fact that some stuff is left up in the air. If you were to script a resolution to the series, give me something. What would be, if there's one more story arc, one more 5-issue story arc, where do you go? What's for you? How do you save this to bring it to a conclusion?
It's almost like you need 2 more story arcs because, well, to make it make sense, like you could definitely wrap it up in one, but like the pacing and the way they're taking it, I feel like you need 2 cast story arcs. I feel like we definitely need that confrontation between Finn and his villain and his villainous
Dre.
Yeah. Well, no, not Dre. The Yuzavong there, the warrior.
Oh, the one that he showed mercy to. Yes.
Taslok. Or Taslok.
Right.
Yeah, like he's creating like a weapon that will fight the Jedi here. I feel like you can do a couple ways. You can have like a tragic end where like Taslok confronts the Jedi, like puts down his weapons because he's not going to use his special Jedi killing weapon. Shoda can finally beat Finn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he could save the Galactic Republic from the Yuuzhan Vong.
But Finn, overpowers, beats the villain there. Beats Yuuzhan Vong, so he unleashes the Jedi killer and kills Finn there. So Finn dies by the Jedi weapon, but that's what pushes his sister, who just finally came in and just saw just in time for her brother to die, so that her sister is the one who finally ends Taslok and kills the Jedi destruction weapon.
Well, hey, that's pretty good. Pretty good. I do think they were setting up Kay to be, the new queen of Artorias. She was becoming quite regal, quite commanding. I've been reading the Mistborn series, and in it...
Where are you at now?
I am halfway through the 3rd book, and I've been halfway through all summer, because it is one long book.
It's a long book. Like, the resolution to book 3 is...
I've heard it's good.
Finest resolutions I've seen, but yeah.
There's a character in Mistborn who undergoes the character arc of becoming a monarch, like learning how to be a commanding king. And I was kind of picking up some of those character beats with Kay, though there's a big enigma, there's a mystery. I'd like to see her true identity explored a little bit. I think you could do a several issues of digging, diving into that. The mom and the daughter getting stranded, a la Callus and Zeb in a cave somewhere, just the two of them. But
figure out
big character moments,
like half Vong or something like that.
Or something. Yeah, there's another species that ends up coming into the new Jedi Order. I won't spoil it, but late in the series. So I'm wondering if she's got to tie into them. But who knows? We don't know. Let us know, listeners, in the Discord, the Legends Books channel. Let us know what are your theories for what could have happened there in the end. The unscripted, unfinished ending of the Star Wars Invasion comics. But Caleb, we began this episode by saying that...
And just the last arc would have been Invasion of Resolution, of course.
Oh, with an R! I love it!
R-E specifically.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Now I'm looking for one. Reconciliation would be a good one.
Revolution.
Oh. Gonna be a revolution. Moving on. Caleb, you've not read all the new Jedi Order books. You're coming into this fresh. You've got some cursory Vong knowledge. 1 or 2 issues in was sold that the Yuuzhan Vong come across so much better in comics than they do in the books. You don't have to suffer through the tremendous amount of exposition regarding their culture and their religion that you do in the novels. You instead get to see them kick butt and they've got a really cool appearance, and they're amphistaffs. They're very, very flexible, dynamic. You know, the amphistaffs, they can combat lightsabers, but they also are snakes that can bite people and spit venom in their faces. You can do some cool stuff with that in the comics. I'm going in on the theory that the Yuuzhan Vong were made for the comics medium. Caleb, as somebody who's not read New Jedi Order, what's your impression of the Yuuzhan Vong from this series?
To kind of take a step back, when I first heard about Yuuzhan Vong, and like when I first like kind of started like my tertiary like introduction with them, I thought they sucked. I didn't really care for them at all.
They're very divisive.
I didn't read the books. I didn't read like any of the media. Like I was just reading book pages and like, oh, they killed Chewie and they have space slugs. Like that's kind of dumb in my Star Wars.
Thud bugs, excuse me.
Yeah,
Don't speak badly about thud bugs on my podcast.
To be fair, I was 12 and had I was a really smart kid and definitely had great opinions like all
Edgelord
12-year-olds.
12-year-old Caleb Lemonak.
I listen. I was homeschooled and horribly sheltered, so I'm chronically online. So I had all sorts of great opinions that I definitely don't regret now. All that to say, I think you're right. Like the Yuuzhan Vong definitely show up a lot better in comics. I feel like their appearance is really cool. It's really dynamic. I'm not sure if they 100% sit in Star Wars as well as I thought, but like I did read Legacy, which takes place 100 years after this. And I love the Yuuzhan Vong there because I liked how they're like, hey, they came in and did some really bad stuff, but they're now like on the fringes. There's like Vong tech that's, integrated around like our main, like Kate's friend.
That.
It's like he's good with Vong tech. He's like, yeah, I'm a specialist. I trained on using these bugs here. So like I like how they're used as like an extra plot point here. This is going to sound a little weird. I feel like the Vong, they're good in comics, but they feel more like a video game antagonist.
Oh, okay.
They feel like they're cut from the same cloth as the Zerg from StarCraft and the Covenant from Halo. Like, hey, we
Halo.
got this
Yeah,
big,
I can see that.
Overwhelming like force that we've never encountered before, and they're wiping the floor with all of us, and we really have to band together here. So they're an interesting, sort of they're an interesting antagonist. Like it's
right.
It's cool to see something new here. I do kind of like how we're seeing shades of this in the new canon here. Like we're getting a little bit of shades of them in the Nihil and the High Republic.
Okay.
Hey, like we got this like it's like an almost hodgepodge, like random collection of like the super warrior culture who are not dark side users here. If you're following the new Thrawn trilogy, some people are saying that the Grisks in that are supposed to be the Vong. They're again, it's shades of it. It's definitely not a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right. Okay. I like that assessment. I like that. The more video game characters. Hey, let us know, listeners, who would win in a fight: the Zerg, the Vong, or was it the Covenant?
The Covenant,
the Covenant from Halo. Let us know who would win in an epic
three-way showdown. Like, yeah. So, but after reading the comics, I do have a much more favorable like outlook, like favorably in air quotes. Like they're a much more interesting and nuanced like villain here. Like I do kind of wish that they had a little bit more unified like exterior. Like I wish their spaceships were a little bit more were as iconic as TIE fighters. Not like anything could be as iconic as a TIE fighter, but like sometimes I feel like the ground forces look cool. I feel like I wish their visuals were a little bit more unified for some of their space stuff.
In my mind, there's a little bit more uniformity after having read the books. You've got your coral skippers and your world ships, but the comic tried to make it. I think it went for the cool factor, which can't complain about that.
No. Comics are made for cool, and the Vong looked good here.
Yeah. Well, Caleb, as we wind down toward the end here, how about favorite quote of the series? We read 17 issues here. There are a lot of good little one-liners and zingers. And what was your favorite quote?
Like there's a like it kind of goes along because you're also asking about my favorite panel here. There's like a fun moment where like would they dedicate an entire page to like seeing Finn like concentrating on a tiny little rock, and it kind of shudders at the end. It's like, yeah, I got it. And then Luke says like, oh, look at, that's neat. And then picks up literally a hillside using the Force. It's like, go back to your rock. And that's a fun
you gotta love Jedi training and rocks. I mean, that's really become a great thematic through line throughout the saga at this point.
Yeah.
Canon and Legends.
So that's like kind of my favorite, like a great quote with probably my favorite panel is Luke, there's several great panels of Luke like lifting rocks and being really cool. I think probably one of my favorite lines is when the king is kind of on his deathbed and giving a speech. And you allude to this where he's like talking about, your mother, came to me after I freed her. It's like, I want to be yours. So he's like, and Finn's like, can we like skip ahead, please? I don't want to know about this.
Oh, right. Yeah, he started to describe when they first hooked up, and then you get the interjection, breaking the fourth wall, kind of pulling us out of the flashback. It was, that was well done.
I think that's probably my favorite like quip there. It's like, I wasn't going to go into detail, son, okay?
There was some good humor in this series, a lot of good little quips and one-liners. I really enjoyed Lobaka. Love Lobaka. Shout out to Lobaka from the Young Jedi Knight series. Lobaka makes a few little cameos in this series. He shows up at one point. I'm trying to remember, is it on a ship full of Yuuzhan Vong? Where exactly is it? Anyway, he pulls out his lightsaber, the kind of bronze-colored lightsaber. Very cool. Love seeing that in the comics, because Lobaka's not in a ton of comics. And somebody, kind of is the reader stand-in here, kind of the voice of George Lucas, if you will, breaking the fourth wall into the comics, and says, a Wookiee with a lightsaber. Now that's a little bit too much, something like that. And I just really got a kick out of that one.
Something you just said, Couch, maybe I think realized something of maybe why I wasn't like a big fan of the Vong from the outside. And while I think they're cool, I'm not sure about this, and you've read the series here, but it definitely seems like the Vong aren't made, like it's hard to have like any semblance of comedy or comedic timing with the Vong. They seem just a little bit too edgy and serious.
Very self-serious, yeah, very self-serious.
Like, I don't know, it's a cool like there's tortured skin and like we love pain and like BDSM and weird like this, like their outlook is certainly interesting, but it definitely like, you couldn't have like a rebel style show or like a young style show of like, we're gonna pull one over those dumb old Vong here and sneak by them. Like there's no comedic like wiggle room with them. If
that's a great point. That's a great point. Absolutely. There is a Yuuzhan Vong jester who's a very significant character in the series.
Interesting.
Do not Google that, listeners, if you have not yet read The New Jedi Order. Major spoilers with that character. Do not look into it. But Omini is the name of the character. And I may have got that wrong. I think that's right. Anyway, they're very self-serious, very dire, very edgelord, the Vong. So now my favorite panel, talking about favorite line, I love the Luke Wookiee with the lightsaber. What's funny, Caleb, is my favorite panel is also a Luke panel. Yours is a Luke panel. Mine is a Luke panel as well. Luke, though I said his appearance is not awesome, I love that I said don't Google this, and I just watched Caleb immediately Google it.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not afraid of spoilers.
I say don't Google it. His eyes light up, fingers go straight to the keyboard.
You said don't Google it if you're reading through it. I'm not reading through this. I can look this up.
Fingers went straight to the keyboard, y'all. Okay, back to my Luke rant. Luke doesn't always look like a great likeness of Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill.
Freudian slip. But there's a lot of great panels of him doing cool Jedi stuff. And in Legends, I mean, you just got to love Luke doing cool Jedi stuff. There's a panel of Luke with the green saber just mowing down an absolute horde of Yuuzhan Vong. He's in the middle. They're surrounding him, kind of like Genndy Tartakovsky, Mace Windu style.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just Luke versus the Vong, and he's wiping the floor with them like it's a regular Tuesday. And so I love that panel. I think it's from the first issue of the third story arc. So, Caleb, there's been a lot here. We've talked about Invasion, 17 issues. It's a lot to cover. Thanks for doing this with me. Does this, I have to say, we're halfway through reading the New Jedi Order. Does this make you want to read more of the New Jedi Order?
It's definitely made me think I will enjoy it. Like, before I thought I would not enjoy it because I felt like the Yang Fong were a little bit too self-serious. I feel like they are still very self-serious, but I feel like there's still some interesting meat on the bones here for the New Jedi Order. I've heard really good things, like I'm doing some research and people like, yeah, this 17-issue series is really good. If you like the characters, you should stop here and not read the next major story arcs.
Okay.
That's what I've just seen here. But, like, am I going to put it on the top of my list? Not anytime soon, maybe in a couple of years when I'm caught up on
It's a
canon.
big commitment.
It's a big commitment. Like, I'm going through, I'm 10 hours into Infinite Jest right now, which is a 60-hour book, so...
Well, that's your problem. You never should have started that in the first place. You should have just read New Jedi Order.
Apparently, those are only, I'm sure there's only like 8 to 10 hour audiobooks.
There's probably not nearly as many fun podcasts about Infinite Jest as there are about Star Wars.
Probably not. Infinite Jest is like, this is going to sound so pretentious, but I said I'm like 12 hours into it, and I'm not exactly sure what's happening in the book or what the plot is yet.
Right.
It's great, though.
That's the good news about a Star Wars book. 100 pages in, you know what the plot is.
Oh, you should
every
know
single
what
time.
You should know what the plot is from the cover there, and like, oh hey, look, this one has Jana and Jason Solo in it, so that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. And they were in this. One thing we didn't talk about at all, which is probably good, was the romance between Finn and Jaina Solo.
I feel like
something.
I feel like it's something like more like, Finn's like first crush,
I mean, who can blame him? You gotta love Jaina Solo. She's an all-time great Legends character.
Oh yeah.
Well, speaking of things that we love, we are going to be cranking out some more episodes of Legends Look Back in the very near future. We are now in a steady stream of content release going all the way through the end of the fall. And so we've got the New Jedi Order Short Stories episode coming up soon with Trevor Davey from the Star Wars Archives, making his much-anticipated return to Legends Look Back. If you want to be reading some of those, hit me up in the Legends Books Discord and ask what's the reading list for that one. And we'll be sure to cue you in. I have already started Boba Fett, A Practical Man. So that's a good one by Karen Travis. We'll be talking about those coming up soon, followed by our Star by Star Roundtable coming up at the end of August. Yes, for those of you who are wondering, there will, in fact, be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Caleb, tell us what's coming up on the Cosmic Force.
We got some pretty major comic stuff coming through. Like, they've just literally this week announced that the current runs of Star Wars are going to end, and then there's going to be a new run of Star Wars comics that take place after Return of the Jedi, leading to the Battle of Jakku. So it's
very hype.
We got some really fun, amazing moments coming up here. We're wrapping up a bunch of series, a bunch of minis. Our show is a little less structured. We just can't talk whatever's coming out here. So, if you see an issue that you want to talk about, like the new Inquisitor series, we got some great work here. And
I started that. That's good. Yeah,
it's good. It's like there's, I think issue 2 just has dropped, so we'll be talking about that soon.
Nice.
We also, as you mentioned, I ran a bunch of our people through all the various published Star Wars RPG adventures. So, Dice Wars Season 4 should be coming out onto the UTN Podcast Network shortly.
Cool. Gotta love that as well. I gotta get caught up on Dice Wars. Well, that will do it for this episode of Legends Look Back. Thanks, Caleb, for joining me. And a special thank you to Brian Dooley, Carl Sander, and Michael Fry on our High Council, as well as James T., Ashley Ingalls, and Colton Fife at our Captain Tier for their amazing support. Remember to sub to the channel and leave us a review in your podcast platform of choice. While you're at it, go on over to the Cosmic Force and leave them a sub and a review as well. If you'd like your thoughts read on the show, you can email us at legendslookback@utini.com. And we're on X at Legends Look Back. Let's keep the party going and hop on over in the Discord, where we're continuing the conversation with other Utinians about this week's episode in the hashtag Legends Books channel. Though I suppose this was a comic, so you could also be in the hashtag Star Wars Comics channel. Either way, we'll talk about it with you, and it'll be great. That's it for us. Keep exploring, keep sharing, and let's keep on expanding the universe. Together, may the Force be with you.
This is a Utini broadcast.